Thanks so much, Ben, and welcome everybody. And are we having a great conference or what? Yes, we're having a great conference. Yes, we are. And what a wonderful time to be spending together. Perhaps, sort of we'd prefer to be in person, but 2020 is just around the corner and we will be in person next year. Anyway, virtual and all, as our time together may be this afternoon, I'm thrilled to be with you as always. And we're asking a question which I hope you're finding provocative. Certification, what is it good for? There you are wondering what requirements are for certification, wondering how the hell do you navigate Certimi, what is Certimi, and so on. But at the end of the day, the question really is, what's it good for? If I jump through all of these hoops, what is it good for? And that's really the question that I'd like us to spend a little bit of time this afternoon thinking about. Because there's a short answer and there's a long answer, and I hope to give you both. Um, the short answer is certification is an achievement. And I want to take this opportunity to invite you to feel proud of the achievement of certification. We'll go into some detail about what that actually means. So I'd like to start with some expectations and some suggestions as to how you might use this session. We're going to look at the value and purpose of certification, what's it for, and what does a certification say about me? Going to look a little bit at the origins of any certification in a role delineation study, the role competency training arising from role delineation studies, and of course, role competence certification. We'll do some deep diving into peer recovery roles, the role of the advocate and the role of the coach. And we'll take a very brief overview look at the 3 steps to certification at the New York Certification Board at ASAP. I cannot answer questions about application status, individual application status in this session. Listen out for general information and email me, email ASAP NYCB for specific information about your case. So let's take a look at the process of this session. It's all about you. Certification is all about you. And you're here for a reason. What is it? Think about that for a moment. Take a few breaths and start thinking about where your feet are right here, right now. You're in this particular room for a reason. What is it? And what are the 3 insights you most need from this presentation? Write them down for yourself and listen out for answers. Everything about certification is technical, so this presentation will get very detailed. Be prepared. Everything technical discussed in this presentation may be found on the ASAP NYCB homepage, and there's our URL at the bottom of this screen. Please email me your follow-up questions to rriddick@asapnys.org, and I will give you that email address again. So as Betty Davis says in All About Eve, one of my favorite movies, fasten your seatbelts. I invite you to look, listen, and learn. I probably won't be a barrel of laughs this afternoon, but I will be deep diving into what constitutes the tremendous achievement of being awarded, of earning a certification. I prefer that we don't have any photography on the way, rather that you pay attention to the slides. Questions in the chat box, and Ben will pay attention to them. There are, of course, continuing education credits for this session, and most of all, I invite you to enjoy. Thank you for being here. Let's get started with the value of certification, the value proposition of certification. What does certification do for me? The message of certification is very straightforward. Certification confirms that I'm a competent and ethical professional with a transparent and accountable practice in the certified role. That's the message that those 4 little letters after your name broadcast. I know what I'm doing in my professional role. I'm committed to doing the right thing no matter what. I'm open and upfront about what I'm doing in my professional practice. And I can explain my ethical decision-making process and my professional actions to anyone. And I will accept any consequences. So quite clearly, the message that you're broadcasting is that you are, to your fingertips, a professional in the certified role. Who are you broadcasting this message to? Well, the Institute for Credentialing Excellence, which is a national organization working in and serving the credentialing industry, gives us some indication of how significant the audience for your message is. ICE says that a high quality certification validates an individual's knowledge, skills, and abilities in a defined profession, occupational, skill, or role. And here's the audience piece. And allows employers and other stakeholders to identify individuals like you with the competencies needed to perform a role or task. So there you have it. Certification carries a great big powerful message with it, a message that speaks to multiple audiences. Individuals who may become clients of yours, for example, or employers who may want to give you a job. Your certification gives them a big message. The Institute for Credentialing Excellence, I should also say, has certified our Director of Certification, Elizabeth Cranson, as a credentialing specialist. So you can expect a level of expertise at the New York Certification Board as well. So we see from this messaging, from the audiences, from the value proposition for certification, that it's all about the role, the certified role. So where do these roles come from? That's a sort of question about origins. Let's take a look at the origins of any certification. A certification originates in a formal role delineation study and a job task analysis. And what the role delineation study does is it defines the role and the competencies attached. In our field, both IC&RC and ASAP itself have been directly involved in role delineation studies. I'll give you some chapter and verse on that a little later. But that's the very beginning. And a role delineation study and job task analysis can be undertaken by any organization interested in meeting a gap in service in any particular field. Role training is developed out of these role delineation studies. And the purpose of role training is to train us up in the competencies of the role. And once we have that level of training, that level of competence, we can present ourselves for certification by an organization, an independent organization like the New York Certification Board. Again, we'll get into the details a little bit later, but this is the overview. Role definition, role training, role certification. These are the three pieces. The role definition is developed from community expertise and validation. The role training is developed from the delineation study and task analysis. And certification is developed again from the role delineation and task analysis, confirming individuals are competent in the certified role. And certification is administered by independent non-profit boards, which establish standards for assessing candidate competence. So already we can see that our certification has a lot of background to it. I'm reminded of the idea of the iceberg. I know it's a hackneyed image, but just think about it. What you see at the top of the iceberg is your certification. But what you're looking at on the screen right now is what's below sea level. There's a lot of it, and it's all wrapped into the value of your certification, the achievement that your certification is for you. So that's the background. That's where the roles come from. In the peer recovery profession in New York State, we're looking at two recognized professional roles, that of peer advocate and that of recovery coach. They have different origins and they have slightly different and slightly nuanced differences between what's actually involved in the two roles. The advocate role was originally developed by the International Certification and Reciprocity Consortium, ICNRC, and their minimal definition, core definition, states that a peer advocate provides outreach, advocacy, mentoring, and recovery support services to those seeking or sustaining recovery. That's the role. Oasis in guidance published in 2019 builds out on that. And Oasis, of course, is a core stakeholder here because peer advocates are deployed in Oasis licensed treatment agencies and programs. So how Oasis builds out the peer advocate role is very much on point here and something that we very much want to know about. They state, a peer advocate provides outreach for engaging an individual to consider entering treatment, reinforcing current patients' engagement in treatment, and connecting patients to community-based recovery supports consistent with treatment, recovery, and discharge plans. Now, as you'll see, there's a very great deal of connection between the peer advocate role in the Oasis system and treatment and treatment plans. The value here is, of course, that it allows for that connection, allows for Medicaid billing. The recovery coach role was originally defined by the International Coaching Federation back in 1996. And some of us are involved in coaching long enough to remember this innovation. Their core definition of what a coach does is partner with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them, the clients, to maximize their personal and professional potential. To which New York Certification Board adds, a recovery coach is anyone committed to promoting recovery from addiction by assisting recoverees to remove barriers to recovery, generating individualized recovery options, and connecting recoverees with recovery support services designed to build recovery capital. And you will find these definitions posted on the website of the New York Certification Board. So when we remind ourselves to stay in our lane, here are the foundational definitions of the lanes or the roles of the advocate and the coach in New York State, in our understanding in New York State. We can go a little deeper. Let's go a little deeper. OASIS defines the job duties of a peer advocate, a certified recovery peer advocate, as follows. Using recovery expertise, professional training, and lived experience to boost individuals' engagement in treatment and commitment to recovery. To connect patients to community-based recovery supports. To provide non-clinical crisis support, especially after periods of hospitalization or incarceration. To educate program participants about various modes of recovery. To accompany clients to medical appointments. To raise awareness of existing social and other support services. To link participants to formal recovery supports. And to assist with applying for benefits. Now that list of the job duties of a SERPA, I have simply copied and pasted from the OASIS website. If you are somebody in or looking for a Medicaid billable job that requires certification as a recovery peer advocate, as a SERPA or SERPA provisional, this is the work that you can expect to be doing. These are the job duties that fall within that eligibility for Medicaid billing. So if your supervisor is suggesting to you that you do this, that, or the other, and it's consistent with this list of job duties, that means it's consistent with Medicaid billing. That means it's consistent with OASIS level, state agency level policy around the deployment of individuals, employed individuals who hold SERPA. Again, this slide is posted to the homepage of the New York Certification Board. I've put the URL there at the bottom of each of these slides so that you know where to go to take a look back at all of this information. So that's a little closer look at what the role of the peer advocate in New York State is all about. Let's take another look at the coach role. William White is quoted in the CCAR Recovery Coach Academy as defining a recovery coach as a person who helps remove personal and environmental obstacles to recovery, links the newly recovering person to the recovery community, and serves as a personal guide and mentor in the management of personal and family recovery. Those of you who have taken the Recovery Coach Academy, or those of you who will take the Recovery Coach Academy, you'll come across this material, this definition from William White, and you'll also spend some time studying or practicing or theorizing around or talking about or discussing or having fun with. 3 core communication skills: asking good questions, listening actively, and managing the conversation, and my own stuff in the conversation, managing my presence. The International Coaching Federation, meanwhile, identifies a number of core competencies for coaches, which again I think will be familiar to those of you who have studied the coach model in the Recovery Coach Academy and the CCAR training. Demonstrating ethical practice, embodying a coaching mindset, establishing and maintaining agreements. Remember those all those discussions around working agreements. Cultivating trust and safety, maintaining presence, that managing the conversation, that being mindful in the conversation, listening actively, evoking awareness, and facilitating client growth. So there's a lot of congruence between the training that we receive in the coach model, the Recovery Coach Academy, with the core competencies of coaching as defined by the gold standard of the International Coaching Federation, which suggests that for those of us for whom the coaching model is particularly attractive, our introduction via the peer recovery profession, our introduction to coaching may well launch us on a career as a professional coach. And for that, I recommend that you investigate the International Coaching Federation further. So in summary, the peer advocate role, that certification was developed by the International Certification and Reciprocity Consortium per the validated IC&RC role delineation study job task analysis of 2013, that very foundation of the certification. It describes, that job task analysis describes 54 itemized role competencies, knowledge, skills, and abilities required for practitioner competence and professional certification. And that's what the IC&RC peer recovery exam tests. It's offered by 48 IC&RC member certification boards nationwide. Nationwide, this certification is known under as many different synonyms across the nation. In New York State only, we're talking about the Certified Recovery Peer Advocate, or CERPA. If you go to North Carolina or Texas and you proudly announce, as well you might and as you are fully entitled to do, you proudly announce that you are certified as a recovery peer advocate in New York State, I promise you that people in South Dakota and Washington State will look at you crooked and will not know what you are talking about. But if you say that you are certified in the New York State equivalent of the IC&RC peer recovery, peer advocate certification, then you'll get traction. Then you'll be understood. CERPA is managed in New York State by ASAP New York Certification Board. The first CERPA certification was awarded on February 27, 2014. That's neither today nor yesterday. This certification is not new. It has a track record. CERPA Provisional, meanwhile, was introduced back in June 2016 and was an initiative of Julia Fesco at Oasis, for whom a shout out is in order. And of course, as we've said already, this is the certification both full SERPA and SERPA provisional. This is the certification that's eligible for Medicaid reimbursement, provided, of course, all the other requirements are in place at the time. So this is why employers are going to be asking you for SERPA or SERPA provisional. It's not only because they want that value proposition, they want that knowing that you're competent in the role, but it's also because they want to be able to bill Medicaid for your services. The recovery coach certification, the Certified Addiction Recovery Coach, the CARC, which you see after my name on my automatic signature, that's even earlier. CARC is the original, developed by the Connecticut Certification Board per its validated role delineation study of 2012. It describes 27 itemized role competencies, again, knowledge, skills, and abilities required for practitioner competence and professional certification. And it's managed by us at the New York Certification Board here in New York State. Our first CARC certification, that is to say, the first ever professional certification in peer recovery, was issued by us on September the 1st, 2012, fully 9 years ago. So again, nothing new here, a lot of track record. Recovery coach certification is not eligible for Medicaid reimbursement in New York State. So here we are, a deep dive into the roles, the two roles in the peer recovery profession in New York State. Whichever role you occupy, they both have a shared mission. And this is it. We're looking to help individuals build their recovery capital. And those of you who have taken the CCAR Recovery Coach Academy will recognize this great question. How can I help you with your recovery today? And you may expect that your client has a purpose for showing up for the conversation. Just as I suggested at the beginning of our session together this afternoon, that you folks are here for a reason. Your clients come to you for a reason as well. So that's some very basic information about the roles. Let's start looking at the profession itself, the peer recovery profession. Every profession, and peer recovery is no different, is characterized by three elements: practice-specific training. And of course, the purpose of practice-specific training is to assure performance. I know what I'm doing in the role. Every profession requires profession-specific ethics, and that's to assure the accountability of practitioners like you and me. And every profession will have some kind of credentialing. In peer recovery, we're looking at role-specific certification to assure competence. Training is based on the role delineation study. It's delivered by qualified trainers and it's approved by the credentialing board. Ethics are developed by the profession, implemented by the credentialing board, and they're binding on certificants. From the moment that you apply for a certification with the New York Certification Board at ASAP, you are bound by the ASAP NYCB Code of Ethical Conduct. And ethical complaints are assessed by the credentialing board. Sort of if we find that there's merit to a complaint, there will be consequences, including potentially stripping you of your certification. So the profession takes ethics very seriously indeed. And certification, role-specific certification, is awarded to candidates who demonstrate role competence per standards developed by the credentialing board. In other words, we tell you how to demonstrate to us that you are competent in this role so that we can legitimately certify you as competent. The value proposition, the meaning of certification. So, which certification? The certification you apply for is going to be based on the role that you're looking to become certified in. That could be the advocate role, in which case you might be going for a SERPA provisional, or you might be going for full SERPA. It might be in the recovery coach role, in which case you're going for a CARC. In either case, in both cases, you will be required to sign on for the New York Certification Board Code of Ethical Conduct. All of this information, application instructions, application forms are all available on our homepage at the URL given on this slide and on most of the slides in this presentation. How do you demonstrate role competence? For the advocate role, for the advocate certification, you will need to be 18 years of age or older. You will need to hold a high school diploma or equivalent or higher. If you do not have a high school diploma, now would be a very good time to go and get your GED or HSE or whatever it's called these days. You will need to complete 46 hours foundational ASAP NYCB approved role training. For full SERPA, we require 500 hours role experience, including 25 hours of being mentored or supervised. You do need to pass the ICNRC peer recovery exam, and you do need to affirm the ASAP NYCB Code of Ethical Conduct. There is specific guidance for every piece of this available on our website. We go into exhaustive detail. That is to say, for those of us who are not already exhausted looking at the amount of detail that I'm currently bringing to you. But we really do offer you guidance every step of the way. It's there on our website, it's there on our homepage. I always suggest coming to our homepage with specific questions that you need answered, because you will find the answer there. But bring fresh coffee, pull up a comfortable chair, and give yourself plenty of time. The recovery coach, to demonstrate role competence as a recovery coach, requires 60 hours of approved role training. The exam, the competence-based exam, is currently on hiatus. It will be reintroduced. I'm not entirely sure when. So, sort of take advantage of not actually having to do that step at this time. And of course, we require that you affirm the ASAP NYCB Code of Ethical Conduct for this certification as well. In a nutshell, or at a glance, 3 steps to the certification process. Bearing in mind that you're on a mission here. You're on a mission for that value, to achieve that value proposition. Certification confirms that I'm a competent and ethical professional with a transparent and accountable practice in the certified role. First thing to do, get some training. 46 hours approved foundational training is good for both SERPA and CARC, but you are not in any kind of conversation about certification without training. That's your opening gambit. Get trained. And one of the values of the CCAR Recovery Coach Academy, for example, is that it's such a fulfilling training, even if you never proceed to certification. For anybody who's in recovery, interested in learning more about recovery, interested in going a little deeper in recovery, interested in getting a bigger picture about recovery, interested, for example, in one of my favorite pieces in the CCAR Recovery Coach Academy, which is the Stages of Recovery model, that training is good for all of us looking to build our recovery capital, whether sort of we go on to seeking a certification or not. So that's 30 hours of your foundational training right there. Plus, of course, 16 hours peer ethics. Be absolutely sure that any training that you take is approved so that you have that option to use it to support your application for a certification. No certification comes in the window at us. We have to apply for it. So in order to apply for any certification, we must meet the standards. That is to say, what I presented very briefly on the previous slide. I have to meet all of those requirements in order to be eligible for certification. So again, if any piece is missing, if you aren't 18 years of age yet, for example, I mean, there's Ben Riker of Youth Voices Matter. Sort of Ben might have to go through, sort of another birthday or two before he's eligible for certification under the age limit rule. Or if you haven't yet, that's a joke, Ben. I'm hoping that you're laughing. I can't see you. But the other piece of that is, for example, if you don't have a high school diploma, sort of now is the opportunity to get that GED so that if you want to be certified as a recovery peer advocate, you actually have that piece of paper available to you. So meet the standards. Read the instructions for each of the applications. You'll find them on our homepage. There's the URL at the bottom of the slide. And select the right application form for you. If there's an exam required, ASAP New York Certification Board will register you. And we do have some specific guidance on registering for the exam and preparing for the exam. Again, you'll find that on our webpage. So here's what the homepage looks like. Here's a partial screenshot of the ASAP NYCB homepage. Welcome to the New York Certification Board at ASAP. And the first thing that you can see is that it's pretty dense. Not a barrel of laughs, no more than Ruth is this afternoon. A very, very, very deep dive indeed. At the top of the screen, you'll see those green buttons. They're navigation buttons to help you get to where you want the information that you're looking for, where you want to be to find that information on the home page. But there is not a single word on the home page that doesn't need to be there. The challenge for you is to navigate to the information that you need. And those green navigation buttons are there to help you do that. And then on the right-hand side of the homepage, you can see that there are the application forms or links to the application forms for each of the certifications that we offer. Again, instructions, instructions, instructions. So what you're looking at here, again, just the tip of the iceberg. There's detailed guidance documents available on each piece of this, so that you can follow along and you can stay focused on the task at hand, applying for the certification that you're eligible for, applying for the certification that you want. One of the supports that we offer is, of course, an optional online peer recovery exam prep workshop. There's the flyer for it. Again, this flyer is a pop-up that's available through the home page, and that workshop is available to you 27 on the link on the flyer. It's a lot. It's a lot, but we don't do anything on our own, as we know. There's a whole team at the New York Certification Board dedicated to helping you. Many of you will already be familiar with John Coppola, the executive director at ASAP. John asserts and holds us, each and every one of us, to this standard that he sets for the organization. We are committed to excellence in everything that we do. And you are entitled to expect excellence from us. Excellence in our products, excellence in our guidance, excellence in our instructions, excellence in our technical assistance, excellence in our customer experience. Roy Kearse is the board president of the New York Certification Board. Elizabeth Cranston, whom I have already noted, is certified as a credentialing specialist by the Institute for Credentialing Excellence. Elizabeth is our full-time director of certification. Kathy Gifford is her program associate, and they are a powerhouse duo. I work very closely with Doug Rosenberry, who is a certifications development at ASAP NYCB. Doug, you may know from his previous life at ASAP, where he was very deeply involved in launching the clinical credential CASAC. And of course, here I am. I'm your gateway to any information that you need anywhere in the ASAP or NYCB world. Contact me first and I'll get you the information that you're looking for, either myself or I'll refer you on to the team member best placed to support and advise you. So let's take a look at the learning objectives. So let's recap the learning objectives for this session. They were published in the program, in the conference program, as follows. 1, understand that peer recovery is a profession and be able to describe the constituent parts of any profession. Here they are. Practice-specific training for the purpose of assuring performance. Profession-specific ethics for the purpose of assuring accountability. And role-specific certification, assuring competence. If these 3 pieces are required for entry into a profession, you may be confident that you are joining a profession. And of course, in peer recovery, these 3 pieces are indeed required for you to come on board as a professional. As we see in looking at our second learning objective for this session, which is to recognize the career value of professional certification. It comes in 2 pieces, as we saw at the head of this presentation. There's the message of certification. Certification confirms that I'm a competent and ethical professional with a transparent and accountable practice. And the audience for that message. A high quality certification confirms an individual's knowledge, skills and abilities in a defined profession, occupation, skill or role, and allows employers and other stakeholders to identify individuals with the competencies needed to perform a role or task. So that's a wallop of a message there, real value to you from the achievement of professional certification, an achievement you can absolutely be proud of. So finally, this story, this three-part story that I was hoping to outline to you folks about certification. How certification begins as a role delineation study, progresses through role competency training and development of role competency training, through to role certification, that three-part foundation of any certification. That story is told very particularly in the recent ASAP experience of developing the Veteran Supported Recovery Certification. And there's a whole session at the forthcoming November 3 VETS Summit, ASAP's annual VETS Summit. There's a whole session telling the Veteran Supported Recovery story. Featuring Malik Hutchinson, whose advocacy set the ball rolling, Jason Page, who developed the competency-based training, and Doug Rosenberry, who is looking to the future of the VSR certification. We tell that story in a dedicated session at the upcoming VETS Summit. We're going to offer a special price for that session only, which comes with continuing education credits. To those of you who are interested in a real world case study of how certifications develop, email me if you're interested in registering for that session only. And my email given there at the bottom of the screen. And again, in my final slide, your follow-up questions. I'm always delighted to get emails from everybody to rriddick@asapnys.org. No need to be out there floundering looking for information or help. That's what we're here for. This is how you get hold of me. And anybody who works with me will tell you that I do indeed pay attention to email. You will get a rapid response, that is to say, a 24-hour turnaround, except at weekends, from your email to me. So that's what I got for you folks this afternoon. Not a barrel of laughs, to be sure. I did issue a fair warning over a studio portrait of the great Betty Davis earlier in this presentation. But I do hope that nonetheless, I've answered the question, certification, what is it good for? And told you in some detail the reasons why you can be proud of achieving a certification. It is an achievement. You do it all by your own work, one foot in front of the other. Congratulations. I look forward to seeing you in the field. And with that, Ben, I do believe we have a couple of minutes for any final comments or questions.
Thank you so much, Ruth.